Welcome to Spain. Buenos dias, Tanya.
Hola, that was nice. It was a lot of Spanish.
See, I know a lot now.
That's it, right? You're done. You don't need to learn
I'm done
anymore.
for the day. Yes.
For the day. Well, I have my Spain.
You do. What is it?
Well, I don't know whether it's a good or whether it's a good or a bad. Everybody can decide. One day, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So I want to talk about the cat situation in
Los
Spain.
gatos?
Yes. The Los Gatos. As people may know, I have four cats. This was not planned.
Okay,
This would not
why?
have happened in any other country, I don't think.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, well, let's see where this goes. Because if it's a, they've got more cats here. I guess you haven't been to Turkey, but
Well, yeah, I have not been to Turkey. This is true. I have not lived in a country with so many wild cats. And what
Okay.
they have here is, and people are very nice to them. It's lovely, but they have colonies, what they call colonies of cats. So there are, and then the community will probably take care of spay and neutering them and feeding and watering them. And they're like they're living in a corner of an orange field, and this is definitely an outside of the city thing.
Right.
Um,
Well, can I say we do have these cat houses throughout the city? So there are they
oh,
do.
you
There's
do.
yeah.
Okay. Well, what happens out here that I wasn't prepared for
Okay.
is if and you can tell me if you've experienced this. Everybody wants to give you a kitten. Because
Okay.
if you, there's either a colony that that a cat accidentally had kittens and they're dealing with it, or somebody had a house with a like our friends, they had a cat, they had a cat that had kittens in their garden. It wasn't their cat; it just rolled up into their garden pregnant and found itself a little corner and had kittens. So then they're dealing with four kittens. So they're trying to give everyone a kitten, right?
Right.
And so you really, if you I am not, I wouldn't call myself a cat person. I wanted a dog. We promised Zeno a dog when we moved here. We got here during COVID. We couldn't get into a house as quickly as we had planned. So it all got very elongated. And then we
Hmm.
had a friend.
Wait, did I
we'll,
just see you do a quote unquote?
yeah, we'll just call it. They're still a friend, but I mean, they got us into this cat business, and she was like, "Well, why don't you just get a kitten? I have a kitten. I'm getting this kitten, and it has a friend, and it needs a place. So why don't you have this kitten?" So it's like people are constantly like, "Have this kitten. Have a kitten. This kitten was in my garden. This kitten was over here. Like, you need a kitten." So it's like
Right.
very hard. You need to come here with a cold, dead heart if you do not want to have a cat and you're living outside of the city. That's all I have to say, because we got that one
Okay.
because also I live with a bunch of bleeding hearts here. So, it was like, yeah, let's just have the cat for 2 weeks. And if you don't like it, you can bring it back to me. Well, what are you going to do with a kitten after you've had it in your house for 2 weeks with an 8-year-old? Clearly the kitten's not going anywhere.
Well, can I
uh,
can I just say something here? It
mm-hmm.
sounds like you're talking about this cat situation, but it sounds like you have another Spain here. Is that maybe Spain has softened your cold dead heart because now you're because the way you're telling it is like, no, you should say no to all these things, and here you are embracing the newness of living.
Yes, but one leads to another. So then we were walking out in the orange fields and somebody had dumped a little kitten that was very poorly, and we had to rescue it. And
Hmm.
because that cat, I said to everybody in the house, we're going to take it and we're going to bring her back to being well, and then we're going to find a home, and we're going to be the people that pawn off kittens to somebody else this time. How long do you think we had that kitten in our house before everybody was like, "Are we keeping her?" How long?
I would say by the end of the night.
6 hours.
6 hours, okay. Well, depending on
Six
the day, could have been the
hours.
night.
So that's two cats.
Okay.
Okay, so then we
Yeah.
buy a house, and guess what's living in the garden of the house?
Oh, well,
Two.
they do sell houses as is here.
As is. As is might be with two kittens living in your garden.
Two kittens, some furniture you don't want,
Yeah.
right?
So this is how one seriously accidentally ends up with four cats in Spain. So
Wow.
yeah, and even with the last two, I was like, we can keep the last two, but I really, really want a dog. So I don't want us having four cats meaning that we don't get a dog. So then we also got a dog. So yeah,
Well,
it's
we have
it's
two
an
cats, but
experience.
we brought them with us, so that doesn't
Yeah, that's
count.
totally unnecessary. You do not need to bring cats to Spain.
Yes, you do when they're part of your family and you love them, you dead English
That's
woman.
true.
You dead inside English woman.
I mean, I
She's
love
very
our
sweet,
cats.
ladies and gentlemen. I love
No,
Tanya.
I do love our cats, but I think 4 is maybe too many.
4
And
is bordering cat lady. People are talking about you. Yeah.
okay, so seriously, this is the other thing. I was always the last person that was brought on board because everybody else wanted to keep the cats. And now I'm the cat lady because I'm a woman, but my
Right.
husband who brought the 4 cats into the house is not a cat lady. And I'm like, this is also very unfair.
his oh, the patriarchy of it all,
I
right?
know, I know. So I do love our cats. They all have very unique personalities, let's say that.
Well, we do have cats in the city, and there's these like cat houses, and we've
Mm,
run across two. One is like famous, and then
yeah.
another one we just stumbled upon, and it's like in the walls of these buildings, you'll see a little hole, and you
Mm-hmm.
look in, and there's like a place for the cats, and the person
Oh.
on the other side of that's their backyard or whatever, the building's backyard, like a hole, and they'll put cat food and all that kind of stuff down,
Yeah, they're very
and
much taking care of them here. I mean,
yeah.
there's wherever there's a colony of cats, like somebody from the closest town or house is taking care of them, which is lovely.
I mean, the upside is I have yet to see a mouse or a rat in this town. So I don't know what
Yeah.
it's like up there, but I mean, I haven't seen one. I lived in New York City and in Los Angeles. You walked on the sidewalk, one's like running by you, waving at you.
Yeah, and they're definitely taking care of them. And I will say that was something I saw when we went to in Morocco too. They have a lot of stray cats, but it's not tons all over the place, but like every block will have a cat that
Hmm.
the people from the restaurants and everyone is feeding in order to keep the cat around. And so these cats are like kings and queens living
Right.
there.
So, so we're living the wrong life. Next
We
life, we're
basically,
coming,
yes,
come
come
back
back
as
as
a
a
cat.
cat.
Yeah. There's this one cat in I don't know how this episode turned into a cat episode, but we will get on topic soon. That there is a cat near my daughter's bus stop that literally just sits at the door of the
Oh,
building,
yeah.
doesn't like walk into the side. Will come out to the sidewalk a little bit, start running away, and lets anybody pet it, love it, hold it. It is the sweetest thing, and it just lives in the lobby. You walk anytime, you just see it living in the lobby of the building if the front door is closed. It's so cute.
Also a cat cafe in Valencia, which was
Is
really
there?
fun. It's really cute. Yeah. So you can
Oh.
go and have a coffee and, sit there with all the cats. And
And do
I
they
think
try
you
to
can,
pawn the cats off on you like they do? And because LA has a cat cafe and it's like an adoption place too. It's so
they did not make any efforts to pawn them off to us. They should probably know better. We probably have a sign. We have a neon
yeah.
sign above my head. Don't try it. But I think if you wanted to adopt them, you probably could. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But it wasn't
Gotcha.
like very aggressively. It was more like fun and the kids were having a nice time, petting the cats and all that.
Right,
They were
right.
much friendlier than some of our cats, so they're pettable. Anyway, so that's the cat situation in Spain. Just be prepared.
Be
If you're
prepared.
gonna if you're gonna live outside of the city, make sure that you either bring your own cats and keep to it, or pick a number that you're all willing to have, or whatever it is.
Right. Which leads us to the top of our show, which is
There you go.
the things we wish we knew before we moved.
I did wish I knew that before I moved. Yeah, I would have prepared the family
Well, you
better.
know what? I think I prefer a gentler, kinder Tanya. So I'm glad they
Oh
warmed
yeah.
your heart.
If you had known me before.
Exactly.
Yeah, so things we wish we knew before we moved. I think do you have anything in particular you want to start with? Since we kind of started with the cats, we could then move on to other
I think
things.
we may have touched upon this on the other episodes, but it does bear to be repeated. Is that I thought I was very well prepared, did my research, all that kind of stuff, but
Hmm.
it the so the siesta thing was hard for us because I mean we wanted to go out and eat, and then it was like 3:30, and
Hmm.
which is like the time where everything's closing is what the restaurants are open during the siesta time, but nothing else is. And they're like, the restaurant's closing in like 4 minutes. And we were like, well,
Right.
what do you mean we need to eat? And they're like, that's the siesta
That's the
time.
and they had probably closed the kitchen like an hour ago as well.
Right.
Like so, the cafe might have been open, but you weren't getting anywhere. So reading about the siesta and knowing about a siesta is very
Right.
different from experiencing it when you're trying to live and do things, I think. And it is an adjustment for
Right,
sure.
because we were at the thing, and thank God we weren't trying to go shopping, because then we tried to do that the next day. I was like,
Right.
let's go start looking for furniture, and 3:30, what a perfect time to go out in the day and look for furniture,
Yeah.
and shutters everywhere we could
Shutters.
find
And I think it's
shutters.
more difficult. I think if you come from America, where it is almost everywhere a 24-hour, 24/7 culture, you can find
Right,
something to do, something to eat pretty much all day and all night if you live
right,
anywhere near a city. So I think it's more of an adjustment coming from America, because when I go
for
back to
sure.
England, there are, things close earlier and things, and that you can't do certain shopping and stuff like that. So, but coming from America, I think it's an adjustment. It takes a while for your brain to like twist.
Yeah, but it's also weird too, is that things are, the shops are closed from the 1 to 4 siesta time, whatever it really truly is. I don't know. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it kind of shifts depending on the store. But then also you're like, if you want to buy a TV at 9:30 at night, you can, because they were closed those other hours. So a lot of
Right.
these stores are open until 10 p.m.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
the big department stores open at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and you're like, well, I guess if everyone's getting off at work at 8, they have to
Yeah,
go
and out
shop,
in
right?
the out here, I would say everything closes for siesta. Maybe opens up again around 5:30, but then it all closes again around 9:30.
Hmm.
As far as if you want to do any little shops and things like that. So it's
Right.
not as late as the city. And I would imagine you've got certain shops and places that might kind of merge into the siesta a little bit sometimes. That maybe there are certain things you can do in the city during siesta, but out here it is dead as a doornail. Like that's it.
And here it's like the chain stores were going to be open, like your Zara's and H&M's, those kinds of stores in the center
Mm-hmm.
of town that might be open, but there are plenty of, high
Mm-hmm.
street stores that are closed during siesta in the middle of the touristy section of the city too, because that's how they're going
Yeah.
to do it. And
And we've
um,
been here 5 years, and I still sometimes have to like remind myself that
right.
if I might have that feeling, oh, I just need to go do something, and then look at the time. I'm like, oh, okay, no, I need to wait. So it's not, I don't, even after 5 years, it's not completely built in yet.
No, no, and we're going on 2, right? Or 3. How many years did it go to remove here? We're going on 2. And I wanted to go get something printed the other day, and
uh,
there's a printer shop right around the corner from the apartment, and I went there, and all shutters, and it was like
hmm
4:30, and I'm like, still, but we aren't offices. Oh, I guess everything's closed. But like, why would they be closed? Like, I mean, printing needs to get done during the day. And well, I
no, that's
went the
how it
next morning
is.
because I wasn't coming back at 6:30 to get my printing done. I was done for the day. My kids are home. I'm cooking dinner.
Right. Well, and funnily enough, like I needed Zena to get some photos taken for something we'll talk about, another one of these things, and we
Right,
needed photos, and she gets out of school at 4:30, but things don't open till 5:30.
right,
So I have this time that I would love to just go straight from school and get things done, and I can't.
right,
And because of where we live, I either then have to wait around somewhere and get a coffee or something until things open, or I have to go home, drive home, and then drive out again to do it
right.
because of that time frame of when school gets off and when siesta's over. So that's something that sometimes it's like, oh, this is a bummer. I wish I could just go do this now.
Right.
And it's
And
not
with
quite
that
right.
siesta time, that's when people are eating. And if you get to the restaurant late, but like, and at 5, you're like, yeah, I could use a snack now. And they're like, nope, kitchen's closed. We can serve you agua con gas, but that's all you're getting.
Oh, you
But
can get
there's
a cerveza as
or
well. I mean, come
cerveza
on,
or
you can
a
always get
tinto
alcohol.
verano or whatever, but you're not getting the patatas bravas on the table next to you
No,
because we
that's
have
not
shut
happening
down.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, the cook went home. But it works. You get used to it. It does work. I mean, it's nice, and in some ways, I think.
Right, but I think if you're sitting at home wanting to come here, don't worry about it right now, but you will find it when you get here. Whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's very true. I think another thing that I wish I knew, we were very optimistic about learning Spanish.
Okay. Yeah,
And
me too.
I really thought I didn't have much of a base. I had learned Spanish like when I was 17, and so I had a little bit of knowledge of Spanish, but that
Hmm.
was about it. And I hadn't really spoken it, even though I lived in LA a bit. I hadn't really spoken it for anything other than getting my car fixed in LA, I think, occasionally.
Right.
And so I was thinking, we were going to come over and we were going to take immersive classes and really get into it. Now that wasn't possible because of when we came, but I think, you think, oh, everyone says like Spanish is probably the easiest language to learn if you're English. And also if you're living in the country, there's no way you won't learn it. So you have this mindset that if you're living in the country, you will learn the language at some point, like quite
Right.
quickly. For me, that has not been the case. We put our kid into an English speaking school. So
Right.
all of her friends speak English, even if they're Spanish. She has a lot of Spanish friends, but they all speak English. There's a few parents where I've been able to practice my Spanish with, but we're not
Hmm.
immersed in Spanish. We're speaking English in the home.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
and it's difficult.
I agree. I mean, I thought, and I will say we toured many a school before we got here, and they made this big promise that, oh, within 2 years your kids will be fluent, and that was across the board. The schools were telling us that, and
Hmm.
we're 2 years in and now, and my oldest does speak a lot more than me, but she's also a teenager who doesn't want to speak, so it's
Right. So her English might be declining too.
right, right. But like we'll leave a store and she's like, "You were so embarrassing, Dad," because
Well, you are embarrassing, let's be
I am.
honest.
Well, that's part of my job too. It's so.
Absolutely.
But she'll leave. That's not how you say it. You were supposed to say it this way. And I'm like, well, I didn't hear you chiming in. At least I'm using what little I have.
Right,
I mean,
exactly. That's so
you
true.
supposedly now know all of this, and I'm getting berated on the street when you could have
Hmm.
actually helped your father out. Just saying.
There you
So
go. And I think you could, like, to that point, you can definitely get to the point where you can get things done and you can communicate and you can ask for things and you can grocery shop and maybe you can go into the town hall and maybe get some paperwork done or something. But the fluency that I was expecting, that I thought I would get to, where I would be able to just sit around with Spanish people and chat and
and
bounce
read
around
War and Peace
conversations.
in Spanish. Is that what you were
Right?
hoping for?
Yeah. I mean, that is not a reality, I think, especially if you're, it's not an age thing per se. It's not because we're old and we can't learn. It's because we're older and we have a lot of stuff going on. So
Right.
if we were 20 and we came here, yeah, it might be very different because you could maybe just go to school all day and you might meet a lot of Spanish people and you're single and you're meeting people and things. And it might happen that way. But when
Because
you're
you're out
older
in
and
the world. We're
yeah,
not
you're
out in
out
the
in the
world.
world
We have our
more.
families. We have our thing
Yeah.
that's going on. We're isolated with our English speaking, and we have mostly
Hmm.
expat friends because of these schools. I mean,
Right.
because of the schools that we have, we're drawn to the expat. There's these expat communities and hangouts, and all
Yeah.
of all of us trying to get together to acclimate to a new country and a new life, and that shared experience. So, and the Spanish friends I have speak a lot of English, and
Yep.
and so
Yeah,
it's
and the
hard.
ones that don't, the Spanish, the Spanish parents of your kids, of your kids' friends.
Right.
Did I say that right? My brain went like in a big old loop. If there are some of them that don't speak English, you're not going to socialize with them as much. So you might meet them at
Right.
birthday parties and things and get to practice with them, but you're not going to be just like hanging out and doing stuff when it's that sort of awkward. So
Right.
we're actually in the process now. So we've been here 5 years, and Zena was like 8 when we got here, and we went into an English speaking school. And because one of the things that I really wanted for her was to be fluent, not capable in Spanish, but fluent, like
Hmm.
natively fluent in Spanish. By the time she's 18, we have made the decision to pull her out of the English speaking school and move her into a Spanish school now.
Wow.
And that was a tough decision to make because obviously she has loads of friends in the school and it's a hard thing to do, and she's being a real trooper about it, and we're going to
Hmm.
do it. And her Spanish, of course, she does have more Spanish now than when she got here, so that's a bonus for her within the
Right.
transition. But deciding to switch schools after 5 years of being here is difficult. That's a difficult decision to make for sure. But that's
Right.
what we're
Right.
going to do now in order to get her Spanish, because her Spanish is never going to be fluent
Right.
going to an
I
English speaking school.
And my oldest one's going to be a sophomore in high school, like American high school,
Hmm.
right next year. And I've totally. I mean, I've had that battle too. Of like, if she was much younger, I would have done the public school thing or a Spanish concertado or something like that. But I was so fearful of the acclimation of life here, and then being thrown trigonometry, being taught in Spanish, and all of that. I was like,
Hmm.
I no. But now I'm seeing that. Oh, I would maybe I should have let her just completely fail a whole year of school to see where she's at. But now I can't move her. They're happy. They love their school. I love the school. It is what it is. But
It's
um,
literally the same process. You're thinking about all the things that we thought
right,
about, that everyone thinks about, and then you're going through the process, exact same process that we did.
yeah,
Well, she has all her friends there. I mean, it is
it's
a tough
hard. Yeah,
thing. But to think that I do want to mention that I wish I knew before I moved here that it would be much harder to learn Spanish,
I agree.
even
And
for the
I don't
kids.
know where you've heard they said it's the English, the easiest language to learn,
That's what I've
because
always
it's
heard.
not, because I've taken classes and they just throw these words around these sentences where they don't belong. I mean, the one thing that I will say is easy is there is some of like the base words are similar, and I got in trouble by my Spanish teacher for one time saying this in class. I'm like, just to add a mente after any English word, and it's a Spanish word, like obviously it's obviamente, like just throw it around and put that. And she was like, that's not how you do it. I'm like, really.
No, but I love that you try that and you totally just throw words out there. And Jawad is the same way. You both have this confidence of like just throw words out there. And often it's true. I mean, I don't know what a word is in Spanish. I look it up. It's the same word as it is in English, just pronounced completely differently. But if you
Right.
don't pronounce it that way, they're not going to understand it, right? But
You are speaking like
yeah.
what was the one we were just talking about the other day? Whiffy? Was it
Oh, Wi-Fi. Yes,
a
that was so fun. Yeah, I mean, it took me a while because there's so. Oh, and app,
We should probably tell the audience what Wi-Fi is.
Wi-Fi.
Their Wi-Fi.
That if you go in and ask for Wi-Fi, they look at you like you just came off of a boat from Mars, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
the same with app, right? It's like
Right.
it's not an app, so it's just little. Those are little things that
And
you
the
can
app
learn.
really kills me because it's short for app, which is like application, and so you just made what's
An
that an
abbreviation
abbreviation longer than the
longer.
word itself.
But it sounds so cute. I think
Yeah.
Wi-Fi and app
Yeah.
sounds so much cuter than what we're saying. But
It is adorable, and they are
yeah.
adorable here, so that does help,
Yeah, so just know those two words when you're trying to do things here. It's you're
Right.
not looking for Wi-Fi for your house, you're looking for Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi.
Whiffy.
And in England, you're looking for broadband. It's so confusing. It's just, yeah, you got to change it. It's got to change it up a little bit. But I think that's one of the things I think everybody thinks, oh, my child will learn because everyone's telling me, especially like you had the same experience from the school, that they will learn. Oh, yeah, they'll
Mhm.
learn. They get immersed. Don't worry about it. It isn't, I haven't seen that happening to anybody that I know that's in the international schools, unless they
Mhm.
are Azina has one friend that is very, very outgoing, and she loves football. She loves football. So she
Mhm.
joined a football league outside of the school, and that is so. If possibly if you have young boys that are gonna be really into football and they're very, very outgoing, it's possible they could learn a lot of Spanish through doing that if they're going to be doing that.
Right.
But you really have to have the right type of personality and the right extracurricular activities. Because I put Zena, she did gymnastics outside of school. She's done other activities outside of school, but she manages to get through meeting and hanging out with other Spanish kids with like sign language or something.
And I will say, it just because I have two kids, so I have these comparisons. I'm always
Mm-hmm.
My older one is in ballet conservatory, and it's in Spanish. The teacher will try to speak some English to her,
Yeah.
but that's really helped her because it's 6 days a week that she's at conservatory. So it's not just like a gymnastics for an hour. You can
Right.
just get through it and go on by about your day. And my younger one has these once a week kind of classes, and that is
It's
definitely
not
not.
doing it.
It's not enough. And that teacher comes over and teaches them in English for a little bit, but
Oh, yeah.
so she's not learning. I will ironically say that my youngest is learning French much quicker than she's learning Spanish. So, that
Yep.
makes complete sense.
And
So,
it's very strange, right? I mean, Zena's also learning French, and that she seems to be enjoying learning French more than Spanish as well because she gets a lot. And I mean, and Zena's getting an hour of Spanish every day at school.
mhm,
So when you count out the amount of hours that she's been having over the 5 years, one would think it would add up to being
one
very
would
fluent.
think. Yes.
So it's not from lack of having classes. It's not
Right.
from lack of a certain amount of effort, but you would need to put in a lot of money and effort into tutoring, and then also getting them out of the environment of your English
Your
speaking home
bubble.
and English speaking school in order for them to be practicing what they're learning from a tutor.
And my
So
kids have friends from all over the world, expat friends from all over the world, but the common language is the
it's always
English. Even
English.
though from Russia, the
Yeah,
Ukraine, or Germany, they're all coming here with English because it's the English school. I will say
yeah.
that my youngest Paloma said the reason why she is learning French more and
Mm-hmm.
enjoying it more is that they are taught differently, in that one is taught as a like an ESL, it's a second language course, and the French is actually being taught the mechanics of the language, so she's learning
Oh,
it
interesting.
in a you're not supposed to learn to speak it right now, but this is how you do everything in the language versus
Right.
let's get you into conversation. So I think for me, when I took the Spanish classes, it was throwing too much information where I wanted the science. I'm like, give me the science of the language. I
It all
want to
depends
know.
on how you learn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So when
Yeah, and
I'm gonna do.
I think this the point of that really was like it just have an idea of what kind of fluency you're looking for your kids,
Mm-hmm.
especially for yourself. You can manage that yourself, but for your kids, you only have a certain amount of time and a certain window of opportunity. Like we figure at this point with a 13-year-old, we have a window of opportunity right now to move her,
Right.
which we won't have in a year or so, like you don't
Right.
have with your
I
eldest.
don't have.
Like it
Yeah.
just right now we are in this window of opportunity to move and we're just going to suck it up and do it. Because if you want complete fluency for your kids, that is something to consider. If
Right.
you just want them to get by in Spanish, then you're fine. They can probably do
Right.
that in an international school.
To the international school,
Yeah.
and we can also say that it, there are a lot of major programs taught at universities throughout Europe. So if your goal is to stay here and have your kids go to college, university in the EU, there are a lot of programs and a lot of universities that teach majors in English. So but it does limit you, especially in Spain. Like Valencia has majors that are taught in English, but we haven't gone down that road yet to find out what they are.
No.
It'd be like, these are the courses you're taking for the rest of high school because
You're right.
that are available to you.
That's
I
one
guess
way to do it.
I
Yeah.
guess I should put that on my note list of
Look
things
at the
to.
classes. It's going to expand, I'm sure, over the
Yeah.
next few years. But for me, it's not. It's not. Yes, you can do that, but if you're not fluent in Spanish, you are completely limiting yourself to who you can be friends with, who you're socializing with. I've noticed, making choices and not making choices of things because something's going to be in Spanish and not jumping in
Mm-hmm.
with kids that she could easily be jumping in with, and that for me is not really an acceptable situation when we're living here forever.
Right.
So for
And
me, that doesn't make sense, and that's why we're moving schools, because we're not moving in a year. We're not going back to somewhere else. And
right.
if she wants to go to school in Spain, she needs to be able to have access to all the people in that college to
Right.
have to hang out with. And with English and Spanish, then you do.
Right. And agreed. And um I wanted them to be fluent, right? Like I wanted them
Yeah.
to have that because that was part of this opportunity is you learn another language, which is just only going to increase your opportunities in life, right? That was another reason of moving here. That was the joy. I'm like, they're going to learn it and they haven't learned it yet. So
Yeah.
we're going to figure out. But what I've started doing is when I text them, I go to Google Translate and then text it in Spanish so they get the English and text it. So I'm forcing Spanish on them on their text messages
And
and on
yourself.
myself and on
Yeah.
myself. Yeah. And then you start recognizing like my Spanish is horrible, but people laugh at me, I hope with me. But I get my point across. I'm starting to speak as we say in America, the Spanglish. So I'm starting to
Mm-hmm.
throw speak to my Spanish friends that speak English. I'm just starting to throw Spanish words in my
Spanish
English
words. Yeah.
sentences just to get them in there. They think it's cute, and I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
trying
it's
though.
cute
Like,
now. I learned almost all of my Spanish through WhatsApp and translating and sending messages back and forth in Spanish. That's literally where
mm-hmm.
I've learned almost all of my Spanish at this point, and then
Wow.
obviously practicing it. But since most of my friends speak some English, you're stuck with me because we both speak English together. Sorry.
Sorry. One day we'll do an episode in Espanol.
Oh my gosh, or Spanglish.
It's Spanglish.
Well, speaking of the Spanish people, I think one of the reasons that we picked Spain to live in was because we thought that we really thought and knew that the Spanish people are really, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very true. And that is something that I thought I knew, and I'm glad was correct before we
Right.
moved, that actually turned out to be correct. And I just think that has been such a blessing as well, about how kind Spanish people have been to us as we've transitioned and been here and been looking for things and trying to get things done. And it's been, and just, yeah, it's good. That's thank goodness that's true.
Right. They had, I've had nothing but really nice experiences for sure with the Spaniards. I mean,
Yeah.
even when we moved in, we thought we lost one of our cats the day we moved in because
Oh my gosh.
it had found, back to the cats, back to los gatos.
Well, you could have just picked up another one on the corner. So
On the corner,
whatever.
yeah.
That one looks kind of like ours.
And we couldn't find the cat. And I may have told this story before, but it had found a way to get underneath the kitchen cabinets, like got in the kitchen cabinet and then crawled from behind to get under. So we couldn't find, we looked everywhere. Now, mind you, we had just moved in, so we had no furniture. There was nowhere for this cat to hide. And so we're running up and down we're yelling something. Maybe we left the door open for a little bit and it ran out. And so we're yelling in the stairwell, Raven, Raven, where are you? And one of the neighbors downstairs, little old couple, came out, and they speak not a lick. I still see them all the time. They speak not a lick of English whatsoever. And he wrote a little sign for me to put on the street, and he's like, hold on, and then he came, he had the sign written, he's like, put a picture, basically he was telling me to put a picture of the cat on this poster, so and put it outside, and people will find your cat for you.
Oh my gosh, how nice is that?
And then we found it under the cabinets, because
it was in the house, it was in the apartment the whole time.
It was underneath the kitchen cabinets, like, yeah, in this weird space. And
he had found some absolutely ridiculous place to hide, like cats do.
The move was hard on him. Asher, our other cat, the move was not hard on, and he was running around, and even on the boat and in hotels and everything, he was fine. And Raven hid the entire time. It took him a couple weeks to be like, okay, I'm cool now.
Yeah, and we had several experiences where not just the friends that we've met that are Spanish that have helped us with a lot of things locally, but we were wandering around Sagunto one day looking for this place again to take photos, because needing some sort of passport photos for things, and we couldn't find it. It just wasn't, the map wasn't taking us where we want to go. And this old lady was like, clearly we're lost foreigners. And she's like, what are you trying to find? And we showed her what we were trying. And she's like, oh, okay, I'll take, and she's like, just follow me. Like, she wasn't going to try and explain it. And she walked us like 10 minutes to this thing in completely the opposite direction. And I'm like, that is the nicest thing. And we've had people in the grocery store that are just the people working in the grocery store, just, we need something. They're not like, oh, over there, aisle 20 over there, right? It's like, no, they walk you there and make sure that it is the thing that you were looking for.
And as we've stated before, we need them to, because they don't put things where they belong. You need lemon juice? Sure, buy the battery acid. There,
I found cream in the refrigerated section today, which was super weird.
Like cream for your coffee or cream for your face?
Like cream for your coffee, like cream for cooking. Oh, that is a nice thing. You put your cream for your face in the fridge when in the summer and cool off that way.
Well, let's talk about that. One thing else I wish I would know. We did do a weather episode before, but we can say I didn't think it was going to be as hot and humid as I didn't realize. I mean, I looked at the temperatures for a year before we moved. And I said, these are similar to LA, so we'll be fine. It's a lot more humid than I thought. And I know you're from DC.
No, it's not.
Where we're
going to argue about this again. I'm sure we've argued about this already.
But if you're coming from a drier climate than, say, the swamps of DC, it's a lot more humid than you think it's going to be. And the heat feels hotter and the cold feels colder, because it's really temperature-wise not that cold. But for me, well, that's a fair way to put it. I mean, if you do come from literally the swamps of DC, it is nothing really compares to that. I mean, you just step outside, but also there, everything we had was air conditioned. Right. Your house, your car, the next person's house, the restaurant, everything is air conditioned. So here, there's not so much. You're not constantly walking in and out of freezing buildings here. So you also, I think personally, that gives your body the ability to acclimatize a little better, but it's not that humid. It's not that humid.
So yeah, I don't know if you could
Right.
acclimatize to DC
No,
hot
I've been there.
summers.
And I've
That's
also
just
lived in New York in the summer in
oh
Manhattan. So,
oh my god,
for
yeah.
many
It's
a
nothing.
years.
So it's nothing like those, but it is more
Right.
humid than
But you
LA.
don't want to wear white t-shirts in the summer here in the city because you'll expose yourself.
That'll be
That's
a
what I
wet
have
t-shirt
found.
concert. I mean, wet
Yes.
t-shirt
Yeah.
competition. Oh my
People
god.
are like, why do you wear black? I'm like, because I'm not obscene. That's why I wear black shirts and
That's good
navy
to
blue
know.
shirts. If you want me in a light pastel, catch me in the spring when I'm not sweating.
That's good for everybody to know. You know what the weather is like here based on the color shirt that Gaetan is wearing.
And
How's
the
that?
people here, yes, and the people here, they dress for the season and not the weather. So it might be
Yeah.
85 on April 22nd, but it's still spring, so they're still wearing like a light puffer jacket, and you're like, it's not. Why are you doing that, right? And then
Yeah.
in the winter, you're like, it's a beautiful day in the high 60s, and they're like in a fur coat, basically.
Yeah, and people, I mean, I've heard a lot of people talking about how, for instance, the Malaga area that down there is a lot hotter than here. And I
Hmm.
don't know how much hotter. So when we're talking about Valencia, we haven't been living year round in any other parts of Spain.
Right.
So what the weather's like and what the humidity is like in those areas, I don't know. But here in Valencia, I would say it's a little bit hotter and a little bit cooler, but it is very pleasant,
I mean,
really.
and if you're coming from Wisconsin, it's gorgeous, and it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah,
So, and not
exactly.
that it's not, it's just different. In
It's just
LA, I
different.
didn't use the air conditioner as much as I'm using it here in the summer, and it doesn't shift, right? The weather doesn't shift. It's
Yeah.
hot for 4 months. You're not getting a cool day.
Right. And I think the other thing that has helped, and this goes back to a little bit the use of Spanish and everything, the other thing I wish I knew because I was very, very stressed about communication here.
Hmm.
I was very, very stressed about whether we would be able to communicate. That was obviously one of the reasons that we picked a English speaking school because of our very, very low level of Spanish for all of us.
Right.
And it was a bit intimidating to even imagine communicating with the school and all those sorts of things in Spanish. And obviously here in Valencia, in Valenciano just seemed like let's not even go down that road, right?
Right. Right.
Everything here is done on WhatsApp. If you're trying to find a plumber, I mean, other than going into City Hall and getting stuff done, I mean,
Right.
literally everything is done on WhatsApp and it is amazing. And I love it.
Right. I love it too because you can translate everything, get back to
Hmm.
them. And it is amazing. What frustrates me is our Americans, since no one in America uses it, I have certain people that refuse to get WhatsApp to communicate with me.
Oh,
And so
that's
they're
annoying.
using this Google thing
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, send me a video of the kids. I'm like, you're only contacting me through my Google Voice number, which I can't send videos on. Just get WhatsApp. Oh, well, I'll never use it. Well, you're never talking to me or seeing my children ever again. The rest of the world is using WhatsApp. Get it. It's
I
free.
know, yeah, it is. And something. I mean, it's because it's not embedded there, so I totally get it. But it's like here, I've had funny situations where I've coordinated. I've got the name of a plumber off of a neighbor. I've communicated with the plumber in Spanish, in my brilliant Google Translate
Hmm.
Spanish, right? So my Spanish is probably perfect. And then the plumber has come and he's like, "Your Spanish is so great," and I'm like, "Yeah, no, it's not." Now, we're like standing in front of each other communicating via
Through
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp and Google Translate. Well, and I love the Google Translate, whatever translate app you're using, because I just had my air conditioner fixed, and the guy he speaks not a lick of English, except for hello.
Hmm.
And I say buenos dias, and he's just speaking into my phone on the Google Translate, and then I'm doing the same to him, and we're getting. But the job got done.
There you go.
I
Yeah.
got cold air, and he's gone, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But that is a thing. In those moments, um, neither good or bad or anything. It's one of those moments that you're like, eh, people fight about this word, but it's like I felt like now I feel like an immigrant. Now I know what it's like to be in America without speaking the language, right? Like where you're trying to get these simple things done, and WhatsApp and Google Translate makes things easier. But I feel. No one's making me feel lesser than, but I do feel lesser than, right? Like I want to be able to
Mm.
communicate. And so there's this kind of moment of like, I'm not at par and I want to get there. So there is a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Not I don't want to say I feel bad about myself, but
Yeah,
you feel
you
disconnected,
you
you know?
feel disconnected, and you feel. I mean, you're gonna laugh because I mean, England and America, it's the same language. It is not the same language. So
No, it's not.
I was an expat in America for 25 years. I mean, when I first moved over there, the world wasn't as global as it is now as
Hmm.
well. And it was constantly like I had to completely change my vocabulary to communicate
Hmm.
with people properly. And again, like you're saying, I was always somebody that wasn't from there, and you can always tell that. So
Right.
even when you got the vocabulary going and you feel like you've sort of got it going, everyone always knows that you're not from a place. It doesn't really
Right.
matter how great your language skills are. It's just you always are. And I think that's something that's been really nice about, talk to the Spanish people, make Spanish friends, and ask them for things. Because if
Mhm.
you only ask other expats for things, you may likely end up spending more money on things and doing things like that, I think.
And that took me a while to learn that one because I have definitely been overbilled for things when I first arrived. And I'll be honest, I had to do my taxes, and my banker, who I go to a bank and she's very involved in my life. She calls me every few months to see if I need something. It's very strange, right? And
Very
I mean, I
nice.
love it. It's very nice. But I was like, oh, she just called me out of the blue to say hi. And I was like, you know what? I do need to get my taxes done. And she's like, I'll handle it for you. Give me your information because if they find out you're an American, you're going to pay 5 times as much. So let me get you the Spanish price. And she totally did. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, that's amazing. So that's the other thing. You want to ask Spaniards who they use.
Hmm.
I mean, there is and I'm not knocking the hustle. If that's how you're making money off of expats and you're providing a
Yeah.
service in English to help them, I get it, but I don't have unlimited funds, so
Yeah, and this happens all over the world. This is not
exactly.
unique to Spain. This is if you're living somewhere. Like I said, I've had this experience. I've lived as an expat most of my life, so it's a little different everywhere, but it's also very very similar.
Right. I mean, I'll bring a side note. I remember my nanny or I hate to say nanny, babysitters for my girls back in LA told me that there's a whole price structure for neighborhoods. So if she got called to Beverly Hills, her
Oh,
rate's $35 an hour, but in my neighborhood it was 20. And then in
oh
another
my
neighborhood,
goodness.
yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah,
It
I mean, you're
does.
going to charge more to people that can afford more. Yeah,
Right, right.
and that's what you got to do sometimes. So yeah, for
And I will
sure.
say, when I moved here, going with the Spanish being helpful and all that, there was a change, and I don't know if this goes with the wish I would have known, but I'm telling you, when you get here, tell people that you're living here if you are going to move here, because how
Hmm.
they approach you in the store, they're like, oh, here's another. They won't. They will be. I don't want to say rude, but they're not going to be as friendly. And when I would walk into the El Court or something when we first moved, you say, I'm living here now.
Yeah,
Their attitude completely changed, and they were much more helpful and much more sweet because they realized you're someone who's a part of their community. And especially Valencia is a small city that is still very much a small town mentality of community, and you're here as
very
this is
true.
in the
Very,
neighborhood
yeah.
the neighborhood that people wave at me at the grocery store. I have my clerks that are usually there, and they're like, hey, how are you
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah,
right?
don't wait for them to like figure that out because you've now been here a year and they've seen you every week. I mean,
Right,
and when we moved into our house, like the area that we live is a summer spot for
right.
Spaniards. It has been. Historically that's what this area is, and our house was a summer house. So when we moved into the house and we started meeting neighbors and we were like, like, hey, like whatever, oh crap, like another foreigner or something, and then they were like, oh, we're gonna be living here year round, and their faces would just change, like, you're gonna live here year round? Oh my god, that's
Right.
amazing! And suddenly we were friends with everybody, because we're actually living here longer than some of the Spanish people that have houses in our community,
Right.
and
And
it's
you're like
insane.
fresh meat, and they're like, I don't have to talk to Maria anymore. Who's this
Right.
Tanya?
Exactly. Their families have known each other since, like, hundreds of years.
Right.
So it does make a difference, and it definitely helped us to sort of really become friends and have a community here where we live, because the fact that we are moving and becoming part of the community and engaging our neighbors and being helpful and being part of it just makes a big difference.
Now, I want to ask a question too. This is, after you've moved around and a lot and been expat and in other countries.
Hmm.
Um, what would you say about do you have any feel of isolation here, or friends kind of drop off, like losing communication with people you may have been close with? Like, how did you handle that? Has that happened, or it's just been, or has it been a common experience for you over the years?
Yeah, I would say for me personally, I lived in LA, which was for me a transient place. Most of the people that I knew that lived there were not from LA, and a
Hmm.
lot of them have most of them have since left. I think I was one of my first in my friendship group to leave, but part of that was because I knew people, they weren't all going to be there in like
Right.
10, 15 years or something. And then we moved to DC, which is very, I mean, people are just coming and going. I mean, there's people,
Right.
and you've got the whole military, you've got the government, people are just coming and going all the time. And Zena's had several friends leave from DC before we even came here. And then so I find here very similar. Like she has obviously I feel like her Spanish friends are very solid, but in the expat community, yeah, people might get a job somewhere, but it hasn't been more than other places that I've lived personally. But I've lived in those sorts of places. What
Right. And
about you?
in my experience in LA was different. All my friends, I had lived there for so long and had this community of people that had lives and careers there. So I didn't know a lot of people that had left. But what I'm trying to also ask is, like, since you've moved here, the people from where you were, have they dropped off? Because I have, I
Yeah,
will say, since we've moved here, we've isolated some. There's just people that we don't talk to anymore, and that's what happens when you move. But some of these people I've known for years and years, and it's a time change. It's not a bad comment. It's just how life is, and some of
yeah,
that took a little bit to get used to. Like, oh, and or I just can't talk to these people, especially the ones on the West Coast, because the time change. If they have a job, I'm never speaking to them, and they're like, they can't call me after work. I'm not taking your call at 3. So our friendships have, they've
changed a little.
changed.
I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
who you're really, I think you probably know when wherever you are living, who your core friends are that are going to be your friends forever, regardless of where you live.
right.
And that for me, I I knew that already from moving to America, that there's, certain friends that I had in England, and same thing. And back then it was much harder. And
Hmm.
then now it's like, yeah, I mean, we've had friends move literally from here into the city that we've lost touch with
Right.
because it's just too inconvenient. And at the beginning, you're like, "Hi, what's it doing?" And then it's like, "Oh, I can't make it." And then eventually, you're just kind of like, "Oh." And they obviously made friends in the city, and we stuck with our friends out here. So we still know them, but it's not.
Right.
Those people don't have to necessarily leave the country or move to
Right.
another part of the country. And you might have experienced this in LA. LA is huge. I had friends move out into the valley
Oh yeah, oh
and
yeah,
and then
back and
gone,
yeah, and
right?
now it's different. Now the valley's like Brooklyn. You can move to the valley and still
Okay.
have friends. But yes, I lived there 22 years. I remember the first when I first moved
Yeah.
there. If you lived in the valley, you that was suicide. That was social
Yeah, that was
suicide.
it. Yeah.
And LA's still that way. Like, people who live by the beach will not. They pride themselves at not going
They don't
past
go
this one
inland.
boulevard.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, we don't pass Lincoln. I haven't passed Lincoln in 10 years. I'm like, okay, but
Yeah.
but yes, it is. There is that, and I think about, because we're renting a place now, and I really would like to buy something, and I'm already kind of pre-thinking that, of like, we're going to lose these friends that in our neighborhood. Then I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to lose this friend if we even just move to the other side of the city, because it's not someone
Right.
we're going to
And
see
and
every
those
day.
people won't be as convenient. Yeah.
Right.
And that is what happens in life, I guess, for sure.
Right.
And I don't find it that different here. So that isn't something. And when we were thinking of moving over here, I knew pretty much, and I think I'm pretty correct on which friends I still have from there, from DC,
Hmm.
that we're still connected. Obviously we're not seeing each other as often, but we stayed connected, and we will stay connected in that way. But yeah. It was pretty
Right.
much how I imagined.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't shocked by any of it per se, how it
Mm,
is, because I've moved around a lot as well. And I will say, when I had kids, a huge group of friends just stopped communicating with me. Not in a bad way, just
yeah,
because you're not going to invite me out to a bar on a Tuesday night, that the invitation stopped because I'm
yeah.
not going. You're
I
right.
think that's an equal adjustment to moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah.
If you've gone through the situation of having kids and losing friends, moving to another country will be pretty much like that.
Right. Right. And here, though, the things that, and it's not here, I think goes with what you were saying as well, is that because the expat community, and this is such a small city, that the expat community itself is small, and they will move. People will move because
Hmm.
of jobs, or they just don't like it, or it was only for a year to begin with that you can develop relationships with, and then they leave. So I would also suggest to people, have a broader group of, like, really get out there and meet as many people, because you don't know who's going to stick around. And
That's very
uh,
true. Yeah.
and we're losing very good friends, and they're moving, and it breaks all of our hearts. So if you're listening, how dare you? But they have life choices that they have to make. They have to do as
Yeah.
their life. But I'm
People
like,
get
oh,
jobs
those are
or
our easy
something.
dinner party city friends, right? Those,
Yeah.
like, we love them, but they're like, oh, we know we can hang out with them, and so it's now I got to broaden my base again.
Yeah, and I think you do, and I think it works out for sure. It was kind of how I imagined. I think we did touch on this a little bit in another episode, but I think it's worth bringing up because this is something I wish I knew before I moved, and I think a lot of people get very attached to certain items, and they really,
Hmm.
really, really want to either bring over a bag of it or find it here,
Hmm.
and I think. Readjusting all the things that you use to things that you find in Spain is just the best plan in my opinion. And
Right.
and it is, but it does take more time than you think to like find that toothpaste or deodorant or whatever it is,
Yes.
right? So it's
The
just like, yeah,
deodorant
it's a
and
little more
toothpaste.
time. Yeah.
Hmm. We had someone last summer bring a bunch of stick deodorants, and we're out, and there was a fit in the
You're out.
house. Yeah, we're out. They were only supposed to be for one daughter, but the other daughter was sneaking to
Oh,
with a sticks, was sneaking them.
yeah.
So now there's none. We have a friend coming in July. If she's listening, I'd just be sending you a text message soon about things we want you to bring.
So they're not
Um,
willing to find a new one here because this was
they,
the point of me bringing it up, which is
yeah.
go find something you like. You're in the city, you can go shopping. You've got Druny, you've got Sephora, you've got all these places to go find
So I
stuff.
think this is a yes, and you should acclimate, but also when you have friends visiting, use them as mules and bring the stuff that you want.
So that goes back to keep the friends you have where you come from because you might need them to bring you things.
And I wish I had a lot more visitors the first year than the second year. They have dwindled. The first year, everyone's like, "I'll come visit you, free place to stay in Spain." It was wonderful. We had mules all coming all the time, bringing stuff,
Yeah,
and
and we missed that whole thing because we came during COVID. So everybody that was going to come visit us in that first year that I'm sure would have, by the
right,
time COVID was over, everyone was just not doing it. And we
yeah,
missed that whole like rush of people visiting from the place that you've come from, which I think was a bit of a bummer.
right. And going on the things, getting used to things. What I wish I would have done, like, I don't regret anything that I got rid of. I know you got rid of a lot more. You came with suitcases. We had
Yeah.
stuff shipped over, and I'm very happy I had my art and all that stuff that's important to me. But looking back, there was a few books I wish I would have kept. But in retrospect, my daughters may not have ever wanted to read them. There's things I wish I could have shared.
Yeah,
Kitchen
books for
stuff,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, kitchen stuff. I wish I would have brought more kitchen stuff. I like really, and so
Yeah.
buying those gadgets over again. So I know we've talked about this in another episode, but I want to bring it up again. If you are going to move and ship, look at the cost of how much it is per cubic foot. And if you can fill that cubic foot and it's 20, and that you can fill it with $100 worth of stuff, ship it,
Right.
because it's going to
Fill
cost,
up those
yeah,
feet.
because you're going to spend another €100 here, and I
Yeah.
get angry like rebuying certain things when I had a container. I didn't have a full container, but I could have slipped some other spoons and serving spoons and
Yeah.
things.
And also an array of English books is hard to find here.
It is very hard.
So it's not like you
They
can't go and find an English book to read, but the array of what you might have had or what you might want to have and reread, it would be better to bring that with you.
Especially in this city, because it is so small and still so very
Yeah.
Spanish. I mean, there is Amazon, and there is a selection there, but we don't have like the $1 bookshops at the thrift
Right.
stores, where, and so when we
Yeah.
were in England, I was begging my kids, and they wouldn't go with me when we were in the winter. I'm like, let's go to a thrift shop or like a used bookstore, and like we'll bring a suitcase book of books, and they're like, I don't do that, Dad. And I was like, oh,
Well,
come
why wouldn't you
on.
bring a suitcase full of lip glosses? Come on. I mean, you're just so boring.
I know, right?
Books. Like
Well, we can get
books.
lip gloss here. But I'd
Well,
like
I
to
think to that point, like one of those things, speaking of friends and making new friends and what's up, this all kind of comes together in one thing. I wish I had known how many fabulous WhatsApp groups there were for everything. Our class at school has a WhatsApp group, so that puts you in touch with all the parents from the school. Like there's one in the city here just for like parents with teenagers, right? I'm part of a ladies group of just ladies in our area for us to connect and do stuff together. I mean, it's just, and those are all the places. As soon as you meet people, like ask them for whatever WhatsApp groups they're a part of, because those are a source of how do you find a plumber? How do you find this? So you can get all this from the hive mind of these WhatsApp groups that are just for everything, and I love it.
For sure. And you can just put it out there. This is what I need, and it comes with it. And then expats themselves are very helpful because we're all in this boat together. I think there's another topic, but I really think we should save this for next week's episode, maybe, is knowing about how to acclimate the kids from the schools. I feel like that should be an episode on itself, but we have a wealth to talk about that. So I think next week we should bring up how to acclimate kids to living in Spain, how we got them to move here on board, and after they hear, we've already discussed that they haven't learned Spanish like we wanted them to.
Right. We can talk about that again. It's very important.
Very important.
But I think that covers most of the things that I sort of wish I knew, because I think a lot of it helps the level of stress. And also, speaking of things I wish I knew, things get done. Shit gets done. Just don't worry about it. Like that, we're all so stressed in the moving process, and it's very hard to know the difference between stress and excitement, and they all kind of blend together in this very stressful feeling of emotions. And as long as you've got your visa sorted and you're legally allowed to live here, I mean, everything else, and you've got your kid in a school if you've got kids, I guess, the rest of it will fall into place.
And that's a very Spanish way of thinking, which was very hard for me. I don't think we just end on this, because I'm, American, and you want things done yesterday, and you want it done right, and you want it this way, and blah, blah, blah. And the Spanish are like, I will say this, renewing my visa. It came 4 months after it had expired, and everyone was like, don't worry. And I'm walking around like biting my nails and clenching my fist and worried and sweating in the wintertime because I'm waiting for this thing, because I'm so nervous that we're going to be deported because this and the visa people, the people at the city hall, they're all like, don't worry, it will get taken care of. And that's, as an American, not in our way of thinking.
No,
not at all.
And if you've never moved before, you can't imagine how things fall into place, really.
Right.
Then they do. And I've moved enough that I wasn't that stressed about that, but I see the stress, and I was a little bit stressed. So I can imagine how much stress people have that might be coming from a hometown, for instance. I mean, I can't imagine that kind of stress, because I've moved enough times and I'm like, whatever, it'll work out, at this point. But and it does. It really, really does. So, I mean, if you could know that before you move, that it will take care of itself. And wherever you're moving, there are people that will help you.
And I will say that it's also the way of life here, because in America, like, we've moved a lot, right? So we know things will happen just in our experience, but you don't have anyone breathing down your neck. Like when we moved here, it took forever to get, I think it was a couple weeks, but forever to get the electricity. I think the water took a month to get, or 2 months even, to get in my name. Right. And it wasn't like like if this was back in the States, a landlord or someone would be yelling at you, why isn't this done yet? Why isn't this done? And the landlord was like, don't worry about it. It'll get done. They'll bill it back. Don't worry. They'll know when.
And you're like freaking out.
Yeah, and I'm freaking out. I just want to be a good, honest citizen. I don't want anyone breathing down my neck. He's like, I'm not breathing down your neck. It'll happen.
Everyone else is like, I'm having coffee.
And he's like, it's August. Stop bothering me about this. It'll get taken care of in September.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we had our car breakdown in August once. That was fun. Nobody would fix it. It was like, just don't, like, okay. So we just left it at the dealership, and they're like, yeah, we only have like one person here. It'll get fixed at some point. And I was like, it's August. Don't let things happen in August.
I think that's enough. And if anyone has things they want to ask us about, that specific thoughts and fears and worries, let us know on our social media. Send us a note.
We would love to have some ideas about things that you all are interested in.
Until next time, hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Hey, can't get enough of us? Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Our Spain Podcast.
And on our website, ourspain.com. which we will be updating with exciting new things as we grow.
We would love for you to message us with any topics you would like to hear about.
See you next time.
Bye.